All right, so we're rolling.
Nope, 30.
Part 3, Class 10. So what we do is we learn through ostension basic properties. And so when I describe a table, I'm describing it by use of these properties or objects, these physical objects. Ironically, then I start going, well, what makes the redness physical? Is the table red? What is it that the table is that, is the table, in this case, gray? If you say the table is gray, you're just saying, is the table identical to being gray? No, clearly not. The table is not a color. The table is colored, right? It has color. Can you take that property away and it still be a table?
Yes.
Yeah, we were called accidental properties. An accidental property is a property that a thing can have and lose and still be that thing. We're going to be talking about this more in a bit. And then you have essential properties. What can this property, or what does this table have to keep? Which property does it have to keep for it to still be a table? We call those essential properties, that it can't lose and it still be. Now, I may be talking about those two things in what I call the 5 types of is. A lot of things are going to be thrown at you in this section on metaphysics, and you're going to be like, oh man, there's a lot of stuff. And it doesn't seem to flow one to another. Sometimes it's just hot, oh, I'm going from one to the other, and there doesn't seem to be a logical reason, but there is, I can promise you that. All right, so in metaphysics, we're talking about the types of things that exist. I gave the options of the everything's physical, everything's non-physical, and the choice of, the idea that you could have both physical and non-physical things that exist. Okay, all right, that's all pretty heavy duty stuff. I want to give you some now I'm saying these are the types of things that exist. Let me give you some options of existence for ourselves, your own existence. And this follows the question, who are you? Who are you? Similar question to what are you? I mean, what am I? I mean, I'm a human. Fine, then who am I? Right?
Mm-hmm.
That's a deep question.
It's more personal than what I am.
Yeah, I mean, what tells me the category of thing I am and type of thing I am? Who I am is something very specific to me,
Mm-hmm.
right? Well, that's a great. I want to talk about something else there, but I don't want to get off topic here. Let's get to our existence questions or statements. Statement 1 of existence. I have always existed. And I will cease to exist.
Are those two separate statements?
That's one.
And I will cease to exist?
Statement 2. I have always existed and will continue to exist forever. Statement 3. I came into existence. And will exist forever. And finally, I came into existence and I will cease to exist. So here are the options. You've always existed and will continue to exist forever. You had no beginning and you will have no end. Is that true? Not at least for me. Okay? Who might that be true of?
God.
God. So if now, of course, what about the universe? Some believe, let's pretend you're a naturalist, you don't believe in God. And so how did anything come into existence from nothing? So some believe that the universe has always existed, and it will at least, some believe it will continue to exist forever, okay? Okay, there's problems with that statement, and that's why the Big Bang Theory was theorized. The Big Bang Theory was theorized by a Catholic physicist, Lemaitre, okay? And he posited that the universe came into existence looking at the data, and he was insulted, and they called it the Big Bang Theory, and that was supposed to be an insult, okay? Well, now that just so happens to be the, prevailing theory out there right now, even amongst atheists, which is funny because the original argument against the Big Bang Theory was that this guy is just trying to show that the universe came into existence, and if it came into existence, it must have had a cause, right? Going back to Thomas Aquinas. We'll talk about that later. But now people believe that the universe came into existence and will either exist forever or go out of existence again. So that's an option. How does something come from nothing? It doesn't. Okay. So something exists. All right, going on to the next. The next one was I've always existed but will leave existence or cease to exist, right? I've always existed. Some people do believe that. Plato seemed to believe that we are what? Reincarnated. If you read Meno, he believes knowledge is what? Recollection. Test question, by the way. Okay? Knowledge is recollection, that you are not learning something new, but that you're recalling something that you knew from the past. Problem with that, and my students often pick this one out, is, well, then when did you get it in the first place, right? Or did you just start off with all knowledge? Okay. So there are people who believe that you have always existed. Buddhists often will make this claim, and that we're reincarnated, and what's the goal? To cease to exist, right?
Oh, really? That's the goal?
Yeah, that's the idea is that we rid ourselves of all karma.
Interesting.
Yeah, and then we cease to get rid of, rid ourselves of the cycle of death and rebirth.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah, so there are the ideas that you get out of this cycle, okay?
Okay.
And because life is pain, okay? And if life is pain and we're trying to escape pain, then we should escape life, the cycle of death and rebirth. And I kind of like life. I'm not trying to escape it, I'm trying to keep it, okay? And so Anyway, the idea is to stop the cycle. Okay.
That's an interesting theory. I hadn't heard that part of it before.
Yeah. Well, again, we're in America, and you start selling Buddhism to a bunch of Christians who believe in heaven, and now Nirvana takes on a whole different flavor.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so, but if you go back originally, Gautama, how it allegedly happened, the prince escapes the walls of this, the palace that they'd kept him in, this sheltered life, and outside he sees people hurting and dying, and you can't help them, and that's the idea. Okay. Anyway, then what's the next one we have? I will come into existence and live forever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Exist forever. Well, that's more of the Christian worldview, that we have been created, that humanity's been created, that I came into existence via my parents, okay, and my existence began, and that my soul was created and it will exist forever. Whether I exist in union with God, that is, in fellowship with God, that is, or outside of God's fellowship, in hell, that is, to be separated from God eternally, they're both existence.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? But I came into existence and will exist forever. And then finally we have, I came into existence and will go out of existence, cease to exist. And that's generally the atheist view, that the human comes into existence, is around for a little while, is conscious, for a while, has a conscience, I hope, and then loses consciousness and is gone. Ceases to exist, short time. Okay. The most recent, Amy Coney Barrett, who knows who she is? She's President Trump's latest nomination for the Supreme Court, and she's a Catholic, and somebody asked her a question. She has 5 kids on her own, and then she adopted 2, I think from Haiti, and she's being criticized because she's Catholic and pro-life and all that. Anyway, they asked her some kind of question. She said, "Life is hard, but at least it's short." I was like, oh, pretty cool little quote. I like it. She's got a good sense of humor. A little sarcasm there.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of like when I used to move furniture with a friend. We'd lift a couch. I'd say, "Yeah, it's heavy, but at least it's awkward."
Oh. So, those are our options, our philosophical options of our existence. Where do you stand? And those are all philosophical, and we have evidence for each one, right? We can talk about each one. What are the merits of the truth claims of each one of those? I mean, certainly the Buddhists believe one thing, and Christians believe others, and atheists believe one thing. Okay, and you can apply that to all sorts of things. Okay, each one of those statements about existence. But what does it mean to exist in the first place? To say that something exists. To claim X exists, you must know what the word exists means. So if you say the camera exists, or God exists, those are very similar claims. What do you mean to say something exists? What does that word mean? Is anybody taking logic in here? Oh boy, every one of you needs to take logic. When I first started teaching here, logic was required because we had 2 Bible classes, old and new, and then you had to take theology, I think 1 and 2, right? And then you had to take 2 philosophy courses. But of course, as you know, competition, we're competing with University of Houston and University of St. Thomas. You go, oh my God, these students, they look and they say, how many classes do I have to take? Oh, this, I only have to take this many, I'll go there. So we kind of shaved it down, right? And we got rid of the logic requirement. And then we smashed the Bible classes together. How many theology classes do you have to take now? 2,
You
thank
have
God.
to take Intro to Bible and Christian Theology and Tradition. Those are the only 2
2
classes
classes.
required.
Yeah, so they smashed them all together. So 2 philosophy classes went to 1 philosophy class, 2 Bible classes went to 1 Bible class. Because you used to have Old Testament and New Testament. They were separate courses, okay? And then you used to have Theology 1 and 2. And so, why would they do that? Go from 6 to 3? Well, it has to do with you guys deciding to go elsewhere because it costs you less. Because education costs money. How much do each of these courses cost?
Like $5,000 to $10,000,
A course?
I think. I don't know.
You take 1 class, it costs you $5,000?
No, I think there are 2.
2,000. Okay.
$2,000. So
Yeah.
yeah, so that's $2,000. That's a difference of $6,000 on your degree. Yeah, that's expensive. So I can see the motivation. Students are gonna be like, I can't afford this. Go to UH, you know. But I wish it wasn't that way because you should take these courses. Logic is gonna help us with this. So if you don't take logic, I'll throw in some logic on here. We're gonna be dealing with types of definitions for sure. Okay.
Okay.
So, when we talk about existence, we want to know what it means to exist. And I'm going to quote J.P. Moreland. Not exactly, but it's a great definition of existence. To exist means to exemplify one or more properties. Existence itself isn't a property. Existence is a state of exemplifying one or more properties. So a thing exists if it exemplifies one or more properties. I exist and I exemplify all sorts of properties, some more pleasant than others. Make sense? Table exists. Which table? The gray one. Well, gray is a property, right? It's exemplifying color, it's exemplifying shape, size, weight, right? So exemplifying several properties. Purpose, design. Does outer space exist?
I actually don't know. I mean, I guess it could. We talk about it like it does exist.
Of course it does. But why? Because it exemplifies the property of extension, of being extended. Okay? Doesn't have to have air in it to exist. Does your mind exist?
Yes.
What properties does your mind exemplify?
Thinking.
Yeah, certain
Ideas.
things. You could have certain things like aboutness or will. We'll talk about what the your mental attributes are. Okay, the faculties of the mind, we'll call them. How you feeling right now? Getting a lot of stuff? Is this good stuff? You put it all together, it's like a puzzle. One piece doesn't mean much. You start putting it together and all of a sudden people start talking and your mind starts working. But metaphysics is my favorite part of the class. Okay? So we've talked a little bit about existence. What does it mean to exist? We talked about knowing of properties. Talked about types of properties. Let me give you we got 5 minutes left. I'm going to give you this definition and then we're going to leave it at that. It's going to be one of the most important things you learn in this class. A universal. A universal is a multiply exemplifiable abstract entity. Spell multiply by just spelled like multiply, but it's pronounced multiply. A universal is a multiply exemplifiable abstract entity. universal is a multiply exemplifiable abstract entity. It's a thing that can be in more than one place at a time. I asked you the question earlier about what does it mean to be physical and gave you a hard time about it just a little bit. But now I ask the question, what would it mean to be non-physical? Right? Properties are non-physical things, usually, that physical things have or exemplify. The universal is a multiply exemplifiable abstract entity. Redness. Is redness physical?
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
It seems, we go, okay, yeah, it is. Good. Can you give me some red? There is red in this room. Can you hand me some red?
I can't. No, I cannot.
Why not?
Because it's not physical.
Okay.
Never mind. I guess not.
Yeah, it's exemplified by your pen, right? Your ink is physical, right? But the redness.
You can't.
Now, one thing is for certain. Can your pen be in more than one place at a time?
No.
Can the shape of your pen be in more than one place at a time?
Yeah.
Yeah, so shapes can be more than one place at a time, right? Because they're universal.
Okay. Yeah.
It's a multiply exemplifiable abstract entity. Abstract meaning it's not physical, right? Shapes, colors, sizes, weights. I weigh a certain poundage, 190 to be semi-precise. Can 190 pounds be exemplified elsewhere? Yeah.
Yeah.
It might actually be in a pile of laundry, not even a pile of human. Okay? So, now some people deny universals. Okay? I don't. In fact, I would argue against these people. Okay? I think the burden of proof is on them. So, shapes can be in more than one place at a time. Colors can be in more than one place at a time. Right? There's a whole debate on this. I'm going to discuss that in the next lecture since we're out of time. Okay? You can hit.